Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the August 12th, 2020 meeting of the Ascension Parish Planning Commission. Let the record reflect that all commissioners, with the exception of Mr. Furman, are present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we get staff introductions, please? And Mr. Furman is present, so let the record reflect that all commissioners are present. Staff introductions, please.
Stacy Webb, Secretary for the Planning Commission.
Cody Martin, the attorney for the Planning Commission.
Jerome Fournier, Director of Planning and Development.
Eric Poche, Senior Planner.
Sean Shrew, Engineer Reviewing Agency.
All right, next item on the agenda is the chairman's comments. Chair has no comments tonight. Next item is number 6, public comment on any agenda item. We have several public hearings scheduled for tonight, a long list of them, but if you're here to speak about anything that's not scheduled for a public hearing, now is the time to speak on that, if you'd like. Going once and gone. Item number 7 is staff report, subdivision status. Mr. Poche.
Mr. Chairman, before
I'm
I
sorry.
turn it over to Mr. Poche, I'd just like to announce that the November Planning Commission meeting is going to be moved from November 11th, which is Veterans Day, to the following Wednesday, November 18th. All right? Thank you.
Make sure whatever public hearings are noticed properly, so we don't fall into the, well, we didn't get notice, or whatever. Mr. Poche, subdivision
Thank you,
status.
Mr. Chairman. You'll have in front of you the normal monthly subdivision status report. All changes are noted by the asterisk as usual. If there are any questions that you have on anything, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the commission? All right, moving on to the engineering staff report, Mr. Shiro.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Item number 9 is approval or denial of the minutes and written decisions of the July 8th, 2020 Planning Commission. Moved by Mr. Dumas, second by Mr. Schexnayder. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 10 is the consent agenda. We have 2 items, I think, on the consent agenda. 10A is the affidavit of mortgage declaration for Christopher and Amy Gilliard, Lot B3 420955 Amy Acres Road in Gonzales. And item 10B is the affidavit of mortgage declaration for Derek Solar, Derek C. Solar, Lot 4G3A 1446 Shadywood Lane, Gonzales. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda? Moved by Mr. Furman, second by Mr. Chasson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 11 is a public hearings on several, almost looks like 143 family partition. Well, it's not that much. Item number 11A is the Ellie So Junior Tract Lots 4G3A and 4G3A2 by McGlynn Taylor Inc., Council District 11. Ms. Jackson, good to see you, and the mask decor is always kicking.
Thank you so much. Ellen Jackson with McLean Taylor, asking for your approval.
Staff,
All comments have been met, have been addressed, and the plat does currently meet the ordinance for family partitions.
we'll open a public hearing on this matter. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak on 11A?
No.
We'll close the public hearing to have questions, comments, and/or a motion.
Just to clarity from staff, I mean, all of your comments on the report have been addressed, the plan?
Yes.
Move for approval.
Motion by Mr. Dumas, second by Mr. Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. 10B is the Douglas Wheat Trust property, lots A2A1 and A2A6. McGlynn Taylor, this is in Council District 11.
Ellen Jackson again, asking for your approval.
Staff?
Yes, comments have been addressed, and the subdivision does meet the requirements of the family partition.
All right, we'll open a public hearing on this. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak on this matter?
No.
Close the public hearing. Any questions, comments, or a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Schexnayder, second by Ms. Shannon. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item 11C is the Albert Akins Senior Estate Partition, lots A1A and A12, L&L Land Surveying, Inc., in Council District 11. Is anyone here on this one? Developer's not, or the surveyor's not here, staff?
The subdivision as it is currently shown does not currently meet. There's additional information that we need. There's a section of the code that came into effect in 2015 stating that if a family partition is done and an heir receives a piece of that family partition, in order for a family partition to be done on that property in the future, the owner that originally received the parcel must live on it, and if so needed, they must submit some kind of a bill or some kind of verification that they live on the property. This notice was sent to them, and I have not received anything as of the meeting.
Cody, can we take this up with the applicant not being here?
You can take it up.
All right. We'll open a public hearing on this. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak on this one?
No.
We'll close the public hearing. All right. Questions, comments for the staff, or a motion?
We can't postpone this for 30 days, can
You
we?
can take any action you want to take on it. but
We
You
can't-
can't not hear it because they're not present.
All right. I would move to postpone this and give the applicant an opportunity to respond.
All right, we have a motion to table this for 30 days till the next, well, it'll be longer than 30 days, till the next Planning Commission by Mr. Dumas, second by Mr. Schexnayder. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. 11D is the Joseph Edmonston property, lots X1 and X2, Earls and Associates.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from items 11D, E, F, G, and H.
All right, Mr. Chasson is recused from those issues. Mr. Falgu.
Yes, James Fowler, representing Earls and Associates, and the shows on the following family partition, asking the commission for approval.
Staff?
The subdivision as shown does not currently meet the requirements of the family partition. The lot X2, or proposed lot X2, does not meet the minimum size requirements, and you would have to grant a waiver to the minimum size requirement of 1/2 of an acre in order to approve this subdivision.
All right, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing on this. Ms. Stacy, has anyone signed up to speak on this?
Laura shows.
Mr. Shows? Yeah, come on forward, please, sir. And for anybody here to speak on any of these public hearings, we have several tonight. The time limit is 3 minutes, so please keep your, there's a clock in front of me. Please keep your comments to the 3 minutes so we can move along expeditiously. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to speak, sir. We have 1 1/3 acres of land, of which if we take the front portion of our yard, which we want to give a portion of that to one of our sons to build a house and to live there with us, it would, if it were to be 1/2 acre, it would go right into a huge oak tree, and really it would be not very advantageous to do that. So we're asking the ability to just move the line to the 1/3 of an acre so that there would be a fairly good yard, and it would not technically be in the middle of the tree later on when we're gone, and we need to worry about how to dispense with the property. Our son would still be living there, of course. I think we've taken care of everything else.
And the lot does meet the zoning requirements for a lot in that zoning, medium intensity. There's lots across the street, there's lots to the east of the property, and all within, are actually smaller than this lot that we're creating.
All right. Anybody else, Ms. Stacy?
No.
All right, we'll close the public hearing on this. Any questions?
Is the tree the only reason why it's not a 1/2 acre?
Well, if you go back to the full 1 acre, 1/2 acre too, it'd be kind of really close to the front of that house as well.
Oh, it would?
Yeah. It'd push it back, I think, another 80 feet, I think it would. And this is from their architectural plans and stuff like that. This is all the needed for the construction of the house. It would, the new house would meet all the zonings and fit within this structure and the setbacks.
All right, we have a motion on this?
Is there a reason why we shouldn't consider less than 1/2 acre, other than what it's stated?
Oh, I think we can grant a variance to make it less than a 1/2
We can grant the
acre.
variance, but our rules for variance are, are they causing it by this? Is it necessary? So unfortunately, by their own choice, they are causing the necessity for the variance.
I move we approve.
So you move to grant the variance and
You want to
approve.
move the, grant the variance?
All right, so we have a motion to grant the variance, reducing the lot size because of the tree, and grant the variance by Mr. Furman. Second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Dumas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition?
I'm going to oppose.
All right, we'll go roll call vote. Mr. Foreman?
Aye.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Ms. Shannon?
Aye.
And Mr. Schexnayder?
No.
All right, chair votes in favor, so the motion passes by a vote of 4-1, if I'm counting correctly. All right, item 11E is Marty Sanchez property, lots 2A, 2A, and 2A, 2B. Mr. Falgu?
Yeah, representing Mr. Marty Sanchez in the following family partition, comments were made, addressed, corrected on the plat, asking the commission for approval.
Staff?
Yes, all comments were addressed, and it does meet the family partition section of the code.
All right, we'll open a public hearing. Ms. Stacy?
Michael Young.
Mr. Young?
Thank you for the word. I live right next to this property, I don't know, within about 250 feet, I guess it is. The problem that I have with it is drainage in the area. I built a house there 27 years ago, and over this past year, I almost had water in my house twice. I've never had that happen before. So they want to subdivide this up to, I don't know, I guess to build houses in there. I would like some kind of a drainage study or something for right there in that area, because where he wants to put the road is exactly where the water comes over the road every time we get a hard rain. So if the council would, maybe think about somebody taking a look at that before we go ahead and just grant that, I really would appreciate it. And the other thing is, if possible, we're not real excited about having a bunch of trailers out there either, so if that could be considered, greatly appreciated.
I think on the trailer issue, they can only put one.
They can only put one
One
house
per
per
lot.
per
One
lot.
per lot, okay. I wasn't familiar with it.
Yeah.
Possibly. And that's all I really have to say about it. I put them against it, but if anything can be done with the drainage, especially the drainage, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, unfortunately, this is a family partition. They're taking a lot and splitting it into two lots. And under family partition, they're
I was
not,
told this is gonna be split into 5 lots.
No,
Just two.
No,
just
sir.
two.
Okay.
no, just two lots.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And
they-
as far as the drainage, I mean, it's not in the flood zone. I mean, my office is not in the flood zone, almost got water
I'm not in
with
a
the
flood
last
zone
rain.
either. And I built my
Yeah.
house 27 years ago. We never had water
agree.
on that,
Mhm.
ever. And I
agree.
built it up a foot higher, and we almost got
Yeah.
water twice last year.
It's crazy.
Something's different, yeah.
All right. Ms.
That's all I
Stacy,
have to
anyone
say.
else?
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
sir. All right, we'll close the public hearing on this. Any questions, comments, and or a motion by the commission?
Move to approve.
All right, we have Ms. Shannon's move to approve, second? By Mr. Furman, all in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 11F is the Gerald Side, W Sides property, lots B3A, B3B. Mr. Falvey?
Yes, Representative Mr. Gillard on the following family partition, asking the commission for approval.
Staff.
Yes, all comments have been addressed, and the subdivision does meet the family partition ordinance.
We'll open a public hearing on this, Ms. Stacy.
No.
Close the public hearing. Questions, comments, and or motion?
Move approve.
Mr. Furman, motion to approve by Mr. Furman, second?
second.
By Mr. Dumas, all in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 11G is the Doris E. Smiley property, lots B1 and B2.
Yes, representing Ms. Major on the following family partition, asking the commission for approval.
Staff.
All comments have been addressed. You'll notice under comment 1, the lot in the front, previously it takes in a portion of the right-of-way, and so it was a little bit below the minimum half-acre requirement. But since it was submitted, the ordinance has been changed and allows the right-of-way to be included in the square foot area of the lot calculation, so it does meet the ordinance, the code.
All right, we'll open a public hearing on this, Ms. Stacy.
None.
Close the public hearing. Any questions, comments, and or motion?
The only question I have is, and I'm just wanting to make sure, for the access to Lot B2, is that for the proposed 30-foot private servitude of passage? Is that
Yes,
correct?
B1 and B2.
Okay, and they're just going to share that?
Yes.
All right, anything else?
No, motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Schexnayder, second.
Second.
By Ms. Shannon, all in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We are up to H, which is the Vincent Tripp property, lots 2A through 2H. Mr. Falgu, last
Yes.
one of the night.
So representing the Tripp family in the following family partition, comments were made, addressed, corrected on the plat, asking the commission for approval.
Yes, sir. All comments have been addressed. There was a notation made on it. After the original comments were sent out, since it was a judgment of possession divided among 6 heirs, all 6 heirs will be required to sign the map before it can be recorded.
All right. Ms. Stacy will open a public hearing. Anyone signed up to speak?
Clint Sedetall.
Mr. Sedetall? I don't need to. Okay. Anyone else?
Lamar Tripp, but he doesn't want to speak.
Okay. Did they mark down a for or against, Ms. Stacy?
They were neutral.
Okay. Anyone
Lamar's
else?
one of the heirs.
Oh, I got you. Anyone else?
No.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing on this. Any questions, comments?
Only question I had, the division is done due to inheritance, is that correct? And do they have any, I mean, the way everything is listed, do they have any plans for subdividing it further or anything like that?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I know it's still in all, I think, 7 heirs of the property.
So they're just dividing space for the heirs?
Yep. Nobody can agree to everything.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Sexsnyder.
Second.
Second by Ms. Shannon. All in favor? Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. And finally, on the family partitions, number 11I. I don't know if Mr. Chasson's coming back in for
Yeah,
this.
I'll get
He
him
is. Carl Stafford Estates, lots A1B1 and A1B2, Philip Thomas, PLS. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Lacey Wiltz, the property owner.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself on this.
Okay. Let the record show Mr. Sexsnyder's recused himself on this. Staff?
Yes, the comments were addressed prior to the meeting, and the subdivision does meet the section of the ordinance.
We'll open a public hearing. Ms. Stacy, is anyone signed to speak on this matter?
No.
We'll close the public hearing. Any questions, comments, and/or motion?
I move for approval.
Move for approval by Mr. Dumas, second by Mr. Furman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, item number 12 on the agenda tonight should be loads of fun. Public hearing to approve or deny the following preliminary plat. 12A is Bell Savan Major Revision, Quality Engineering and Surveying LLC. Mr. Murphy, good evening.
Good evening. Commission, how are y'all doing tonight? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Derek Murphy with Quality Engineering and Surveying, representing the developers for Bell Savan. Whew, that mask is rough, huh? So, early 2015, we started this project, and during that preliminary time, we was approached at the time by DOTD and the parish on using this subdivision as a corridor, as a connection from Highway 73 and Bluff Road. The traffic impact study at that time, when we got the approval, did not include the connection, but as part of the stipulation and in negotiations in good faith with DOTD, we asked for that to be a condition on Phase 3, as they wanted a connection from 73 to our property line, and they were going to go through in haste, according to everyone at DOTD, expropriate if they needed to, and push a road all the way through to Bluff Road. 5 years later, that has not happened, and I know DOTD is looking at other alignments and other scenarios that does not include this as the piece of property that they wanted to go forward or go through has over 100 heirs and some title issues that has led into some roadblocks on this connection. During this time, negotiations were done as well as to change the from a standard street section to an enhanced street section, which cost the developer almost, nearly $400,000. We've done everything that was asked. The developer has went above and beyond with the street sections and that kind of stuff in order to try to minimize the driveways and things in order for the cut through to happen. The condition is that no certificates of occupancy can occur in Phase 3 of that's 97 lots until the bid is accepted by DOTD for the connection towards Bluff Road. I know in the past, this commission has not been favorable to remove these types of conditions. But in this case, I think that it is different because the condition can never physically be built or be done. In other words, we don't own the property. There is no right-of-way. The agreements that were done with the expropriation requirements and so forth, even this parish cannot do quitclaim. There is no way to make this connection without governmental help from DOTD, period. And they have abandoned this as of right now, to the best of my knowledge. That's what makes the condition different from all other conditions, is because it is completely 100% out of anyone in this building's control. So we asking tonight, the other major change, of course, is the addition of a pond on one side of the pipeline. The reason is, once we got into the design of the third phase, instead of crossing the pipeline multiple times with pipes, with public utility servitude, or public drainage servitudes, it made more sense to make one connection and keep the public drainage servitudes on one side of the pipeline. That is the reasoning for the addition of the second pond. I must iterate, too, that we do have a DOTD permit. The DOTD permit had several stipulations that we have met, every one of them, and that those stipulations did not include the connection to Bluff Road. So I ask tonight for approval of this major revision to the preliminary plat, and let us move forward with the construction of those lots. That connection, or the possibility of that connection for DOTD, will always be there. That right-of-way and that road is built to the property line as asked. That can always be done at that point. We thank you and ask for your consideration.
I want to ask you a question, Mr. Murphy.
Yes, sir.
In looking at this. And I understand what you're saying, and in one situation, it's an appealing argument because it's outside of your control, because you turned over negotiating or acquiring this property to DOTD through some type of expropriation. But how is this different from a developer who comes to us and says, well, you know, we'll meet the traffic study because DOTD is going to put in a light. And we know that light's coming within the next 6 months or 6 years or whenever it is, and the light never transforms. And we've come to them, they've come, and we said, well, until the light's there, we can't let you proceed on.
Well, the difference is that the traffic study acts for the light. In this case, the traffic study in 2015, which as per ERA still holds true today, does not require that connection. The connection was there for a regional type, not for this project. It was not a requirement of the traffic study, nor was it a requirement of DOTD to make that connection. That's the difference.
But we approved that, and I think I made the motion to
Yes.
approve it with the conditions set in there, with the idea that there would be a connector, that would be one of the new connectors between Bluff Road and Highway 73. And while I hear DOTD is going to another place to make that connector, it's not even begun work yet.
Oh, absolutely. It's not even in phase 0.
Right.
And-
So if the connector was deemed important back then in order to complete this in 2015, whenever we approved it, why shouldn't that be still, why should we bank on DOTD making that connector at some point in the future that we don't know about, instead of requiring you to get it through before you can finish the subdivision?
Well, and I just go back to the traffic study at the time. The traffic improvements that you have, that you normally have condition upon is stated in the traffic impact study. That connection at that time was not in the traffic impact study during that time. That is something we were under negotiation with. We worked with staff, we worked with DOTD, we changed the cross-section of the street. We did everything that we could in order to make this a viable thoroughfare to come through here, per everyone's request. But it was not a technical requirement of the traffic impact study at that time.
So let me ask a question,
Point of
of
order.
both you and staff, if I may, because am I understanding that it was the parish and DOTD's interest to offload traffic off of Bluff Road and find a connection to 73? And that's what drove this whole negotiations, that it wasn't the impact of the subdivision that was driving that negotiations? I mean, that's the picture I'm beginning to see, is that you were developing this property and they saw a means to get to 73 and they said, oh, we want to talk to you, we want to negotiate this.
One point of order.
Commissioner
Wait
Dumas.
wait a minute,
yeah.
I want to hear the answer to this question.
Basically, what DOTD is trying to do is eliminate the traffic light at Seabright Road, right? They're looking at an alternate route between 73 and Bluff Road. And they looked at this as a possible alternative to that, right? And in those negotiations back in 2015, they did talk to the developer and they said, this may be a possibility to do that. They are looking at an alternate route right now, because looking at the section of road that was built at the request of the parish and DOT, there's an inclination right now that might not be suitable for a major connection between two large roadways, right? DOT is still looking at Seaborough Road and eliminating the traffic signal there. Their objective is to eliminate any queuing that comes off the interstate onto Highway 73. They don't want backup onto the highway itself because it could cause some major accidents, and that's their ultimate goal. So they're looking at an alternate route to connect 73 and Bluff Road, right? And that was part of the negotiation at the time. Right.
So this was then driven, Jerome, by an ulterior motive by DOTD and the parish on traffic issues off of the interstate, 73 and Bluff Road. Triggered as a result of the developer's construction, other than because, oh, it's convenient, this guy's developing, he's got to build a road, we're gonna connect to it, we're gonna use it as that connection.
Yeah. That's basically my understanding, yes. I was not here at the time, but that's my understanding as to what occurred.
All right.
Sean, do you concur?
Just like Jerome, I was not here at the time. I'm just reviewing old traffic studies and minutes, and it appears, this was driven by a regional corridor improvement concept that was under review at the time, and it's not uncommon for DOTD when they see a new development as a part of that process to see if they can accomplish their ultimate goals through, someone applying for a project at that time.
And of course, you were willing to trust DOTD, right?
Well, and again, we felt that negotiating good faith and being part of the solution of the region was definitely something that we wanted to help obtain.
What a mess.
So, talking about the connection, of course, at one time, and it was terminated very quickly. If you can look at the plat and look at how lot number 172, you can see that there is an existing traceway connection from Crestview Estates, which Crestview goes out to Bluff. And of course, we're talking about a connection to Bluff. That was definitely a possible, something to look at, and that was not desired, of course, by those residents, and was asked to be removed from some of our early discussions.
All right, well, let's do this, before we get too far deep into this. How many people are here to speak on this, Ms. Stacy?
Two.
Two? All right, let's open a public hearing. Can we call the first person up here, please?
Gina Smith.
Ms. Smith, Gina Smith?
Hi, my name's Gina Smith. I live on Crestview Estates, actually right by the traceway that he mentioned that connects through, or it doesn't connect through right now. So I wrote that I voted against this measure simply because I do not want to reopen that avenue of that coming through Crestway Avenue. So that is why I said to vote against it. However, I also do not like the DOTD measure of what's stated in the traffic study of turning Sebro Road into only a right-in, right-out. I work going left off onto 73, and so that would severely impact my quality of life if I'm not able to turn left there. And secondly, my home has been rezoned to the new elementary school that's coming in to 73. So if you take that means of turning left away, you have now not allowed me and my family to be able to get to that elementary school once they are attending there. So that is why this is important to me, simply because there's a lot going on here. I don't know whether the right answer is yes or no to the developers. However, I wanted to bring my concerns up about how that connection could potentially go through my neighborhood, which I don't like. And secondly, if they do establish it through another means, it's going to impact potentially being able to turn left on Sebro Road, which impacts a lot of homes in that area that are now rezoned to that elementary school. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kate MacArthur.
Good evening. I'm Kate MacArthur. I live on 13156 Oak Knoll Drive, so I'm at the Lakes at Dutchtown subdivision off of Highway 74. And I came to speak against allowing this major revision for the fact that I don't want to say it's a political issue or a DOTD issue, but it is a traffic and quality of life issue when you put 280-something houses with one access point in and out on Highway 73, right by the Dutchtown schools, right in the plant traffic in the morning and the evenings at an intersection that may be E or F rated, which is not good. And essentially, every neighborhood around me builds these stub outs. So they develop with this intention of future growth. And every time somebody wants to have future growth, everybody in those neighborhoods comes out and says, well, we don't want future growth because we don't want to connect to anyone. So what's the point of having connectivity as a ways to have emergency access with multiple access points and actually have traffic flow when we'll just stop and fight that every time somebody wants to put something else in that connects? So when I looked at this proposed revision, I see that there are other alternatives, and I said that they were studying other alternatives to this DOTD road through Bluff Road. So there is that potential connection at Lot 172 at Mission Street and at Kalen's Crossing, which goes through Moss Point in that final phase. So there were other options, and I'm sure they were looked at. And the other woman's concerns, I hear those, and I think it also works in reverse. So if her subdivision connected through Lot 172, they could actually access Highway 73 at a different access point and be able to go right or left and be able to access, and it wouldn't be such a detriment if there wasn't a change made to Sebro or a widening of Sebro, which could impact traffic there. So I just feel like when we keep approving these developments with one access point, we're missing the bigger picture of when there is improvements made. If 73 ever got widened and now there's a real traffic bottleneck during that time, if there's an emergency that blocks the entrance to that subdivision and everyone's stuck inside of it, I just think going forward, I think it's precedent setting that nothing connects. And so I find it very concerning. And I would like to kind of stick to these conditions that show access that would connect everybody together and be able to offer alternate routes for traffic and safety concerns. So that was my request for you to deny this until they further study other options.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
No.
All right, we'll close the public hearing on this. Any other comments? Mr. Chuck Snyder, I'll give you the floor
Mr. Chairman,
first.
I'm sorry.
No, my point of order was just for the back and forth, we should have gone to public hearing and then come back. That's all.
Mr. Fournier.
I received a letter today, and the signature of the letter asked if I could read that in the record. Would that be?
Yes.
Okay. from Mr. George Valentine. I write this letter in opposition to the proposed request number 1, modification of detention pond configuration. This appears to be a smoke screen to make an additional pond, where it is not relevant. The area of concern is a drainage problem at the east end of Phase 3, where there is video evidence of a large bottleneck of water. This will increase the amount of runoff and will endanger more homes in the lakes at Twin Oaks subdivision if approval of this modification is allowed. Backyards of several homes experience flooding during a normal rainfall. A swimming pool has been breached by floodwaters recently. Whether developer is responsible or it falls to the parish, this should be denied until revisited. I write in opposition to proposed request number 2, removal of condition B, which states Phase 3 not being developed until a connector road to Bluff Road is constructed. The Planning Commission voted wisely and unanimously to place this condition on this development. The traffic situation is still a problem on Highway 73 and has not improved since this condition was imposed. Referencing a 2015 traffic study is unreasonable for approval. Why should the commission grant this request when the developer Inquist Level Development LLC was granted the approval on December 9, 2015, and did not purchase the property until January 28, 2016? They had 50 days to ponder the situation and still purchased with conditions. If you grant this request, you will send a clear message. If a homeowner makes a mistake, bad judgment, sorry. But if a developer makes a mistake and agrees to conditions, you will forgive and allow them to develop. That's just wrong. Signed, George Valentine. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else have any questions about this or want to make any comments for the record? Or have a motion?
Well, the only comment I want to make for the benefit of the two folks that spoke is that, 73 is a state highway, and we really don't have any jurisdiction over what happens there. I wish we did, but I don't know. We don't. It's as simple as that. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I think it's tragic that the applicant agreed to a condition of approval that he had no control over. He has no means to comply with it. And I certainly wouldn't want to find myself in litigation over whether the condition of approval was reasonable or not, especially in light of the testimony that staff has given us. So I'm going to make a motion to grant the approval.
All right,
Simply
so we
because
have
he
a-
has no control over it.
We have a motion by Mr. Dumas on the floor. Do we have a second? Hearing no second, motion dies. Is that correct, Cody?
Yep.
All right. Do we have an alternative motion or a different motion?
I just have a few questions before can we bring that up again, Mr. Murphy?
Motion, there was no second to the motion, so it was dead. So, yeah, you can.
Okay, Mr. Murphy? And this is just kind of like what Jerome was talking about, when the original traffic study. So what mitigating effects did the developer have for, and what I'm kind of assuming is that y'all looked at it for 285 houses. At some point, y'all would have had some type of mitigating effects for a lot, for something that size, correct?
Yes.
What were the mitigating effects?
So
And when did they trigger into that?
We did that in first phase. That was before we even opened up the first phase. We actually did a right turn lane off of 73 into the development. We took the center striping in Highway 73, we restriped everything and made it a dedicated left turn lane into the development. So our mitigation was right turn lane in to get people off the road in order to turn in, as well as get them a left turn lane into the development. So that was our mitigation.
So they didn't have a phased level of mitigation for this, saying that, for instance, when you hit phase 3, you have to do additional mitigation?
No.
Okay.
I have a correction to that. The terminology of phase three that we're talking about today is probably different than it was in 2015. Back in 2015, of course, correct me, Derek, I'm doing a lot of review from back then. I wasn't there.
There was some commercial there, is that what
It
you're
was
getting at?
commercial. Commercial, the parish, from my understanding, from reading, or maybe it was DOTD or a combination of the applicant, wanted to minimize the two commercial tracks. They're not a part of, I don't think they're officially a part of Belle Savannah, but it was noticeable that when he subdivided this property, the two commercial tracks on the left and right-hand side of Belle Savannah Boulevard were to be commercial. So if this was to be an east-west connector, it did not, which may, more than likely, that would make it the new light or the new roundabout by offsetting Seabrook. It didn't want a bunch of commercial driveways next to this intersection, which degrades the whole purpose of the intersection. So the staff, with the mind of thinking of an east-west connector, wanted the commercial tracks to have all of their access to the Belle Savannah Boulevard instead of directly off of 73, the primary access. So back then, so when you throw in all of those commercial trips, and at that time, it was very, very lofty goals, what they can do with these commercial tracks at that time, it generated a lot of traffic. That itself, phase three, that's when something legit had to happen. A signal, a roundabout, plus the connector, a whole bunch of things. So I just wanted to remind you all that when we're talking about phase three tonight, they're talking about just the remaining residential lots, nothing to do with the commercial.
There was a traffic impact study based on the residential lots. There was additional supplemental studies, all inclusive, that were required while we were talking about the corridor, the regional requirements and things like that. We're very aggressive. I think 312 cars for retail in the peak hour. I mean, very, very aggressive on these commercials. Hotel on one corner, things like that, because they wanted a worst-case scenario, what could go here at that time when we were looking at the regional type facilities. So to answer your question, from the residential standpoint, it was give me a right turn, left turn. When you start talking about all that, that's when it got into, when it got into the regional studies, the connectors, all the way to Bluff Road, we might need a roundabout or a light or things like that. So all that was analyzed as well as per DOTD. But for the subdivision itself, the residential subdivision, it was a right turn and a left turn. And that's what was put in before the first filing.
Okay.
So thanks, Sean.
But it was, again, all relative to a regional concern, not your development, not your residential development.
Correct. Because we didn't come before the planning commission with, we're looking for 100,000 square foot of retail and
Yeah, nothing
200,
like that,
yeah,
yeah.
right.
But it still shows that it was an F and an E intersection. I mean, we've got 285 ultimate houses plus a potential commercial area on an F-rated intersection, correct?
F-rated approach coming out of the intersection. And that happens just about on every development we have, is just that approach coming out. It does not affect Highway 73 at all. Highway 73 does not get affected. Am I right with that, Rebecca? Okay. Rebecca's our traffic engineer, so I'm making sure that make sure I'm not saying anything inaccurate.
I mean, if this was, I would not be making that motion if this was an issue that was a direct cost of your development, right? This is, the way I look at it, this is regional interest jumping in, oh, this guy's gonna build a development, I wanna jump on that road, I wanna extend that road and make a connection. And DOTD, of course, typical, never got around to it.
There was probably more time put into this preliminary plat and regional thinking than any other preliminary plat of this size. I mean, we have some larger ones, but we even talked about northern connections, and at one time, there was a Walmart gonna be on the other side of 73, and where does the light come in and where does that connection? There were so many things, but everything dealing with traffic, looking at this project, was about regional and how do you get that connection. The subdivision itself was minimal compared to that.
I guess my concern, so I'm looking at scenario one, which is Belle Savannah without the commercial trips and without the connector. Table 2, phase 3 build, eastbound is an F, both AM and PM. And it's the unsignalized that we're gonna have, right? There's not gonna be a signal
Right, and that's
there,
coming
right.
out of that's coming out of the development. That is not an existing road. That is not mitigating of another road. That is the road of Belle Savon itself. That is the driveway, basically. That regional connection is not gonna happen with some kind of major improvements at 73. There's gonna be, DOTD has already said they have to, if they're gonna allow more cars coming through here, they're gonna have to do something at that intersection, and that's part of their regional studies.
And then on the scenario 2, well, that's with the commercial. Okay, never mind.
Any other comments?
Yes, in 2015, when you submitted the preliminary to this commission, what was the access point in the subdivision that y'all were considering at that point, or DOT was considering, to connect to Bluff Road?
If you look at, between lots 75 and 76, where that connection is, they were gonna, basically leave that part of the property line and go straight to Bluff
So they're gonna
Road.
use a main thoroughfare?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that, okay. I've driven.
What's listed on the plat is Conrad Bro property, were they just gonna, I think there's a house there, isn't there?
There was, yes. Well, there
Isn't
is.
there still?
Yes.
So they were just gonna expropriate that?
That was what their thoughts were, and they, at some point, chose not to go forward with that.
Now, the way that street, the way,
Did you approach Mr. Bro about buying his property and building
Have
a?
we? No, sir. I think there's 110 acres as part of that property.
Mr. Bro was passed?
I believe so.
I know you used, oh no, it wasn't him that used to do that, okay. I was thinking somebody else on Bluff Road.
Can I continue? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Mr.
On Belle Savannah Avenue, was it constructed, the way it's constructed now, was that constructed to be the cut-through?
Yes, sir. Yes. They wanted, trying to do, what the parish wanted to do, in talking with the state, was they wanted to, they knew we had to have driveways on that road. They wanted roundabouts on each end, a divided intersection, a divided street, in order so somebody isn't backing out past 2 lanes of traffic. That was we had to actually ask for a variance of that, but that actually came from negotiations from the staff and DOTD at that time. They wanted a split median in order to separate that traffic, slow it down, and that way people weren't backing out of their driveways over two lanes of traffic. But they wanted people to come out of their driveway, go down, make a U-turn, and come back. As you can see what they're doing on 42, that's kind of the mindset that they wanted in this particular corridor as well.
But I guess my point was, I've driven on that street on Belle Savannah Avenue, and it didn't appear to be constructed in a way that you would have a major thoroughfare between 2 roads.
No, but if I'm not mistaken, that road was built, that road was designed and built that way at the parish's specific request.
Yes, sir.
It was?
Yes.
It was very narrow.
Well, remember, this is gonna be a thoroughfare, but it's also gonna be 25 mile an hour. I mean, they wanted to keep the speed limit down for safety coming through there.
There's when I passed, there were a couple landscapers doing work in yards, and they were parked on the street, and, I mean, I had to watch not for my outside mirrors not to hit. I mean, that would be
Yes, sir.
dangerous if we had that as a thoroughfare.
And this is how well I know that this didn't go to developers, is because this section of road cost the developers an extra $380,000. We
Is
had to
there-
double the curb, we had to double this, we had to double, I mean, it cost.
Yeah. I know you have the other, the possibility over here at Crestway, to go into Crestway on the side, but is there a possibility in Phase 3 where there could be I know you'd have to loop around a little bit, but to go to Bluff Road that way, was that considered at all?
We actually had those conversations about where if you see lot 237 was to take the road and go to the north, but you run into some of the same stuff, you still have to expropriate property.
Right.
from the neighbor, and we don't really have an issue with that. There was discussions at one time to do that, and then when the state kind of said, no, I don't, it all kind of fell apart, so, with that.
And I'm sure no one in the subdivision is offering their street for a thoroughfare.
Bad as I feel, I just think we have to stick to the
Yeah.
conditions on this.
That's what
I
I'm
do
thinking.
feel, I feel it's a shame, but fortunately, well, legal, do we have, since it's a preliminary plat, if we vote for deny, do we have to state a reason for the denial?
Yes.
Okay.
That was given, just like Oak Lake.
I'll make a motion to deny based on that we stick to our original plans.
All right, we have a motion to deny the request for major revision to the preliminary plat by Mr. Schexnayder, second.
Second.
Second by
Here.
Mr. Furman. All right, all in favor of the motion to deny?
Aye.
Aye.
Any in
Yeah, I
opposition?
think everybody needs to state their reasons for denial.
I haven't got to get
Okay,
there.
just making
I'm-
sure.
I'm seeing the vote first. Is there any opposition?
No.
All right, so we'll do a roll call vote. If you're voting for denial, please state your reasons why. Mr. Furman?
Yes, for the reason I stated earlier. I think it's similar to another case we had where a condition was given to approve a project, and I know it's not your fault on this thoroughfare, but I think we need to stick to what was agreed upon at the preliminary plat.
Mr. Dumas?
No.
Ms. Shannon?
I agree with Mr. Schexnayder that we should stick with our original decision, and one way in and one way out for this many homes is just going to severely impact that intersection at 73. And I, for one, would like to see other exits and entrances created, if possible, at some of these locations.
All right, Mr. Chesson?
I vote in favor of the motion to deny the modification. I believe we've already set the precedent that once you agree to a condition, the conditions have to be met in order to move forward. My concern would be that the potential lawsuit for Oak Lake, if we held them to their condition, but then removed the condition here, that we're potentially opening ourselves up to litigation and acting separately. Also, the table which shows the Phase 3 build with the traffic impact at an F is an additional concern. And also the lack of connectivity. Connectivity is a stated principle both in the master plan, the old master plan, the new master plan, and the land development code. And that's something I've been a proponent of since I've been on the commission. And I think you're lacking it under the proposal by removing the modification. And so for those reasons, I'm in favor of the motion. The request for modification.
Mr. Schexnayder?
I'm in favor of the motion to deny based on the fact that we have an existing agreement. We want to be consistent in holding our developers to those agreements. And for that, we'll make the motion to deny.
All right, and I would just say that I'm very torn about this because I think that what has happened and occurred for the developer was certainly not the developer's fault. Part of that is relying on DOTD to do anything, which is sketchy at best. And I think what they're asking for makes sense. However, I'm also try to be a model of consistency. We've had people come many times blaming DOTD or some side agreement with the parish for whatever to revise and remove conditions that we've placed on it. And if we open that Pandora's box, there's no, I don't know that we'll ever close it. So for that reason, I'm going to also vote in favor of the motion to deny. So that's a 5-1 vote. The motion to deny carries. Sorry, gentlemen.
Have a good evening.
All right, next item on the agenda is number 13, public hearing to consider modification to the preliminary plat and make recommendation to the council. And this is a revisit from last month. 13A is Highland Trace. I believe this is a revisit, correct, Mr. Fournier?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Highland Trace modification of approved preliminary plat and recommendation to the council to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the developer for the cost of installation of a temporary traffic signal at Bro Road and Germany Road. And I believe this is Mr. Berthelot. Is he here tonight? Or is anybody here?
I do not think Mr. Berthelot's here. I don't know who is here representing him.
Is anybody here representing Mr. Ross Berthelot? Mr. Fournier, if you would please give us a reminder that we had, or tell me that I'm wrong, we had placed restrictions or conditions on approval of Highland Trace to install, I believe, a traffic signal. And the parish would like to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement to, instead of requiring the traffic signal, take the money the developer would spend on the traffic signal.
That's correct.
All right. We will open a public hearing on this. Ms. Stacy, is anyone signed up to speak on this matter?
No.
All right, we will close the public hearing. Mr. Fournier, do you want to, I think last time Mr. Dumas had asked for some more information. Do you want to enlighten us on the additional information that was requested?
Yeah, I think based on last month's discussion on this, you had asked us to come back with a little bit more information and what kind of agreement that the parish would enter into. In consultation with legal counsel, we've determined that the best approach to this would be entering into a cooperative endeavor agreement between the developer and the parish to basically place the money that he would spend on a traffic signal at the intersection of Bro Road and Germany into a fund that could be used for other transportation projects. The reason for that
At
is-
somewhere other than Bro Road in Germany?
It could be used for that, but it would very likely be used for that, yeah,
Or it could be used elsewhere?
possibly.
At the
It's not
discretion
specific.
of-
We'd have to determine those parameters in the cooperative endeavor agreement, right?
Whose authority would that funds be under? Would that be under the council's authority or the administration's authority?
Council.
Council.
Council would have to approve the cooperative.
Okay. No, but I mean, the spending of the money, well, the parameters would be in the cooperative endeavor agreement?
Fine, whether-
Okay.
Here's my concern. Unlike the prior applicant with the condition of approval, this is an applicant that has total control of complying with this. But we have no control over where those $70,000 go. None. So conceivably, those $70,000 could be spent somewhere else in the parish, at another traffic circle, at another intersection. Okay? And this project would then continue to fail, the traffic that it's supposed to have. So, and this project is exactly like Oak Trace. They want to move forward, get a traffic circle, or get a traffic light. Now, if the cooperative endeavor were here attached to this application that said this money was going to get spent at that intersection to build a traffic study, at least there's some assurance that that intersection is going to get improved. You follow me?
Yeah.
And that's where I get uneasy because, this is just like Oak Trace. This isn't like the prior applicant where, the parish and the OTD thought that they'd leveraged a road he was going to build,
Just to clarify the matter, Mr. Dumas, the developer is willing to build the traffic signal.
Understood.
And put that there in a temporary position. He's also offered, though, the cost of that traffic signal to the parish in lieu of building it, because the traffic is within the next, 6 to 8 or 12 months, will be letting out a contract to construct the roundabout at that intersection, right? So his condition was that he'd either put a traffic signal there, or there would be a traffic a roundabout before he can get certificates of occupancy for his project.
When
right?
is the roundabout letting out? Is it 6, 8, or 12 months, or do we know?
I don't have an exact date, but I heard that it's probably going to be before this year.
Well,
All right?
and here's my problem with this. We just denied somebody who put their eggs in a DOTD basket that fell all apart, and now they can't develop their property. And we denied him, said, nope, we're not going to change your development. But now, Mr. Berthelot comes along, and I'm not besmirching him, but he can get out of those conditions, not by doing anything other than the exchange of money to get out of his conditions for a roundabout that may come in 6, 8, or 12 months, but we don't know when that's gonna let out. And I just think and again, I'm gonna go back to the consistency. Those restrictions were put on, those conditions were made for a reason. Mr. Schexnayder almost chastised Mr. Berthelot, say, "We will not. You understand." I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like that.
I remember it.
I just don't, I think that's a bad precedence to be setting, particularly in light of our actions over the past couple of years where we've said, no, these are the conditions, they're there for a reason, they're there for safety, and you must abide by them. And the parish must abide by them. You want to get that $70,000, go let the roundabout out today and get it built. And then we can talk about doing a swap like that so he can get approved. But until safety improves, I don't think we can go on the hope that safety is going to improve in 6, 8, or 12 or other some undefined time period.
And if there's even one accident during that time where we're waiting for the roundabout and the light's not there and it should have been, we're opened up to liability on that end, and that, I'm not okay with that.
And especially the Oak Lake situation, because that roundabout, they kept coming back. Oh, the roundabout's going to be done by, pick a date, and the roundabout wasn't done. It was just completed earlier this year. So I can't make any motions, but I think I've made my point clear. So I'll entertain, unless anybody else wants to make a comment about this, we'll entertain a motion. on
No,
this.
you said it how I'd play. Unfortunately, I make a motion to deny the recommendation, to enter into the cooperative endeavor agreement.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schexnayder, second by Mr. Chasson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none. Do we have to state reasons why?
Yeah, just to be safe, go
All
ahead.
right, Mr. Furman?
No, I agree. I think we need to be consistent, and although this is different than the other two, in some ways, it's similar also, and I think we should deny it.
Mr. Dumas?
There is no change in circumstance with the traffic that would warrant a change in the condition of approval.
Ms. Shannon?
There should be no period of time where there's not either a light or a roundabout. And this situation, while I appreciate his ingenuity, it would just open up too much liability.
Mr. Chasson?
I vote to deny while I understand the appeal to the parish of using the money in order to mitigate a permanent solution. The fact of the matter is the traffic impact study required either a signal or a light for safety concerns based on the impact of this development, and it would not behoove this parish to waive that condition and allow occupancy to move forward without one of those two in place based on a condition of some permanent solution coming at some point in some undefined time in some undefined way at some point in the future. I mean, there's just too many issues or historical precedents set where we say a roundabout is going to be done by a certain date and it's not, or an improvement's going to be done by a certain date and it's not, and you just can't rely on that.
Mr. Schexnayder?
My motion is to deny it because the ordinance specifically states that the mitigation must be done. We gave that as a condition of approval. The mitigation is not done, therefore no COs shall be issued, and we need to stick to that.
And while I'm an attorney and would relish more mic time to restate what I've already stated with more gesticulations and hyperbole, I will just say that I vote to deny it based on what I said a few minutes ago.
Ditto.
So with that, the motion carries unanimously to deny the modification to the preliminary plat and deny recommending a cooperative endeavor agreement to the council. Item 13B is Parks at Water Oak, modification of approval of preliminary plat and recommendation to the council to enter into cooperative endeavor agreement with the developer for the cost of the installation of a right turn lane and a left turn lane on Germany Road. So this is, Mr. Fournier, just the same variation, except now the money is what he would have spent on right and left turn lanes, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
All right. Again, this is Ross Berthelot's property, yes?
Yes, it is.
So I'm assuming nobody's here for that either. Ms. Stacy will open a public hearing. Has anybody signed up to speak on this?
No.
All right. We will close the public hearing. Questions, comments, and/or motion?
I certainly would like the $500,000, but again, no change in circumstance. I make a motion to do
All
it.
right, so Mr. Dumas makes a motion to deny the request to modify
Second.
the preliminary plat,
Seconded
seconded by Mr. Schexnayder. I think you got there first.
That's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, the motion to deny passes. Please state your reasons, and I think you can say what you previously said.
Change of circumstance.
Yeah,
No
well,
change.
Mr. Furman first.
Yes, I think we need to stick with our conditions that were given at the time of the plat when it was approved.
Mr. Dumas?
There's just simply no change in circumstance, and while I appreciate the dollars, and I appreciate the efficiency of it, the development shouldn't proceed.
Ms. Shannon?
I also appreciate the creativity and ingenuity in trying to get some additional funds to the parish, but for consistency, because there's been no change, vote to deny.
Mr. Chasson?
Deny for the same reasons I stated in response to 13A.
Mr. Schexnayder?
Deny for the same reasons in response to 13A.
And I will vote to deny based on the same reasons that I expressed just a few minutes ago. All right, item number 14, before we adjourn, we'll come back in a few minutes for a zoning meeting, and that will be followed by a joint planning and zoning meeting. So motion to adjourn, meeting adjourned, we'll be back in just a few minutes.